This question is maybe one of my favorite examples to show off the get back to basics strategy. I feel like this strategy doesn't get a lot of credit on the SAT because it usually gets overshadowed by the more interesting ones like guess and check, arithmetize, plug points into equations, but it's really valuable. And even in cases where we're using the other strategies, get back to basics is always there. Because basically what the SAT is doing is it's taking the topics that you know really well in school and kind of twisting them up and making them look different so that you don't know what's going on or you're less confident in what's going on. But there's some basic idea at the heart of pretty much every question. And this one is really easy to identify because they talk about mean. And we know that the mean is the average. And hopefully we've memorized the formula for average, which I've learned as the sum of the numbers over the number of numbers. Okay? So we do need to memorize that. That's part of this. But once we do, and we kind of write that on our page to get it out of our brains, the rest of this question is really easy. Because I'm going to just kind of robot through this thing and just, I've got a formula, I've got some numbers that fit in the formula, I'm going to just put them in. So first and foremost, I get that there's an average of 8 of 8 players, and 14.5 is the average. So I'm just going to put those things where they belong, right? So the average is 14.5. I don't know the sum, but I do know that there are 8 players. Okay, well, I've got an equation with one unknown, and I can solve for the sum, right? I don't know why I would, but I can, so I'm just going to do it. And I do it by multiplying by 8 on both sides. So I get that the sum is equal to 116. Now what? Well, they give me another mean, right? The mean score of the remaining 7 players is 12. So if we're removing a player, now we have 7 players, it tells us that. So again, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know how this formula works. I have numbers that can fit in the formula, so I'm going to plug them in, right? So 12 is now the average. The sum is still the unknown, but now there are 7 players, 7 numbers in the set. So again, the process is the same. Let's multiply by 7 to get that the sum is 12 times 7. Oh, it's 84. I don't need the calculator for that. 84. Okay. Well, this is the only step that requires maybe a little bit of thinking, but I think this is a case where the answer is kind of obvious. Just like do, I don't know, the most obvious thing here. We have 8 players and then we have 7 players. Subtract. See what you get, right? Like 116 minus 84, that should account for the missing player. And it's 32, which is the answer. So I think that a lot of people struggle with this question because they try to figure it all out from the get-go, right? They're trying to think, well, how am I going to solve this? How am I going to get this player? And because they don't see these kind of ending steps, they don't bother with any of the steps. And that's a bad way of approaching any SAT question. Just because you don't know how you're going to finish it doesn't mean you don't know how you're going to start it. We know how to start this. The get back to basic strategy is pushing us to just like plug stuff into an equation and see what happens. And when we keep moving along, we kind of just end up eventually with the answer. And it pops out and we're done. And that's okay. We don't need to always see the entire plan. And that's kind of what get back to basics is all about. Start by figuring out the main concept in a question. Write down what you know. Do what you know. And odds are good that the stuff that you don't see down the road will kind of reveal itself as you go through the question. Have faith in yourself, have faith in your math ability, and you'll discover that you're better at math than you probably think you are. And this is definitely something that everyone can get right as long as you know the formula for average.